Hello, hello. We are live, episode 44 of Heart to Heart with Hazel. And the pleasure is all mine tonight as we interview Wendy DeWar Hughes. So welcome.
Thank you. It's actually pronounced doer.
Doer. Oh, well, I
Doer.
should have
Yeah.
asked you that before we went live then,
If
eh?
you were a whiskey drinker, you'd probably have heard the name because there's a
Oh,
doer Scotch whiskey.
okay.
No
So
relation.
yeah, shucks. Eh? So clearly I need to start what, day drinking or something, maybe, so I would know this stuff.
I have no input on that.
Okay. So Wendy, as we before I sort of get to probably the more interesting questions, let me just start with an easy one. How and when did you start your channel? Do you
I
remember
started
what
it,
year that was?
I think it was
Sorry.
2019. Um, and I started it probably more out of curiosity than anything. I thought, oh, that sounds fun. I'm going to try it. So I just followed all the steps and signed up. And I started by wanting to just talk about things. And then I thought, well, I had no experience. So I thought it was going to take off right away. And when nothing much happened, I thought, well, maybe I'm not very interesting talking about things. And so then I looked at other channels to see what people were doing in the creative sort of world and kind of switched direction a little bit. So that's kind of where it started. I've wandered around a bit with my channel, but that's okay.
Yeah. Has it always been your name?
Yes.
Okay, because I did, when I do my research in preparation for these interviews, I look at titles, I look at playlists, and obviously I gravitate to the things that interest me, and some random things in addition to that. And I noticed that I seem to be watching a lot of videos that were 3 or 4 years old. So
Mhm.
I can see the evolution of your channel because, of course, at that time, you seem to be doing uh, more like what many of us as YouTubers are doing, which
Mhm.
is, demonstrating something,
Yeah.
encouraging people to craft along, like you were doing glue books and so on.
Mhm.
And I guess I mean, I think I know the answer to this because I say it often enough that we need to be changing and growing, because if we're not, then we're slowly dying. So, was that part of the evolution to the videos that you're currently doing? You started in one place and you evolved? And if so, like why?
Yeah, I always have lots of ideas and I get enthusiastic about different creative things. And so when I saw junk journals, I thought that looks like fun. I think I'll try that. And people they were kind of having a moment.
Yeah,
And I thought, well, I can do that. I've always been very creative and very sort of easily able to figure things out. And so I thought, oh, I'll do that for a while. And then I kind of went, well, after I don't know how many, I went, I think I've gone about as far as I can go with this. And then I discovered glue books and they were really taking off. And I thought, oh, this looks like fun too. And
yeah,
so I started doing those and they were very popular.
yeah,
And but one of the things people liked was what I talked about when I was doing it. So
yeah,
even if they were never going to do it, they liked kind of hanging out with me. And after a while, I thought, actually, I'm getting kind of bored. And so I really had to have kind of a talk with myself and go, should I keep pushing through this and whatever? And I heard some business guys say one of the reasons you fail at things is because you quit when it's getting good. And I thought, yeah, but okay, I'll keep going. So I did a few more months and then I went, okay, I can't do this anymore. But if I run out of steam, it's like it's behind me. And I thought, when it comes right down to it, I'm an artist more than a crafter. And I wanted to make art. So
Yeah.
that's why I switched into making art. But then it's like one of those things that has so many avenues that you can go in, and I had already been in a few of them. Then I had to kind of go, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to do courses? Am I going to teach things? Am I going to do watercolors or blah, blah, blah? And anyway,
Yeah.
that's kind of how the transitions went.
I want to, before we go any further, just say hello to some of the people in the chat and welcome people here tonight. Teresa, of course, is the moderator who keeps putting links in the chat. Oh, and Wendy, one thing I forgot to say. Why do I keep forgetting to say that? Don't concern yourself about trying to keep up with the chat or read the chat because in my experience, all that does is distract and kind of interfere with the actual spontaneous conversation.
Okay.
Anything that if people have a question or are saying something particularly wonderful about you, then of course I'll read it to you.
Okay.
So we got Teresa, we got Libby, Denise is here, Judy, what else? Christina, Tracy, and of course they're all saying hello to each other in the chat. So Wendy is an author and an artist living in British Columbia. So, we're neighbors in a sense. And so I was, those are two of my favorite things. So I thought I was really glad when you agreed to do this. And I think one of the things I might have said to you in the emails that we had prior to you saying yes was the fact that I think, like some of your videos, like you said, people really appreciate hearing your thoughts and, sort of the those sorts of videos. And I thought, well, yes, that's exactly how I feel about it. And I know that in some case, like you're always very calm and peaceful, it appears, and balanced and so on. But yet sometimes I hear a little bit of an edge and I'm thinking, that woman is feisty too. And I got the feeling that you don't suffer fools gladly. Is that a fair thing to say about you?
Well, when I read that, I thought, where did she get that? Like, how did you detect that?
Because I'm a smart cookie.
Yes, obviously. Yeah, I think that's probably true of my whole family in a way. Because I grew up in a family that's very direct about things
Yes.
and kind, but still,
Yeah.
um, I can get impatient with people who,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't, it just depends on the situation.
Yes.
But
I
I do
thought
like to cut to the chase.
exactly, and call a spade a spade. I
Yeah.
sat on a board once with a guy who said, well, you should call a spade a shovel. So I thought that was hilarious, but I didn't quite understand it. But I thought, there is much to be said for people who just say what needs to be said.
Mhm.
I love words, and I hate when people use them to mislead or confuse or obscure or manipulate or anything like that. So when someone speaks the truth, and again, I guess that's negotiable, or that's up to interpretation, like who's got the lock on the truth. But if it's a strongly held belief or an opinion, a well balanced opinion, I think we have the right to say that. And we also, I think, get a little bolder, a little uh, brassier the older we get, too, because life is too short for game playing, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Does any of that resonate with you?
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I said, the family I grew up in, everybody was very direct anyway. So when people, beat around the bush and things like that, I'm like, get to the point, please. And also, funny thing is, my mother-in-law was English. She they actually emigrated from England when my husband was a baby. And it took me several years of living near her to realize that she spoke a language I didn't speak, because a lot of it was unsaid. It was like, you know, a facial
Stiff upper lip.
expression. Well, no, it's more like a facial expression,
Oh,
or a sniff or something, and I'd feel it. I would know, like, I think I just made a faux pas here, or I just something didn't come across right. And for a long time, I was like, what did I do? What am I doing wrong here? And then I realized that we just spoke different languages.
yeah.
Well, they're both called English, but they were different.
I find that hilarious. And I also remember being a young bride and thinking, holy cow, this whole business of being a daughter-in-law is, it's not for the faint of heart. And I think it might have been harder back in the day as well. Maybe that's not coming into play with your lived experience, but it certainly kind of felt that way to me. Um, Mind you, I was practically a child. I was a child bride. Uh,
Me too.
yeah, I find that line isn't as believable now as it used to be. But anyway, I also wanted to welcome Gina. Gina says she's the first. This is the first time she's here. So is this someone that you know, perhaps? Gina De Leon?
No, not yet.
Mind you, you have so darn many subscribers. How in the world could you possibly know their names? Um, just to give an Ellen, Bianca's here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so you did a recent video um, where you shared 7 books, and in the course of oh, sorry, I'm mixing 2 things up here, but I'll finish this since I've started it. In that video, you mentioned at least 3 or 4 different trips that you had taken, all within the space of a few months, I think it was. I think they were all across Canada, but we have a wide country. You're
Hmm.
on the West Coast, so you could be in an airplane for 7 or 8 or 9 hours before you hit the other end. So,
Hmm.
um, travel, I gather, is a big part of um, what gives you joy and part
Yeah.
of your life experience. You've lived in foreign countries. So do you want to just talk a bit about that and how it's influenced you?
Yeah. I think I grew up on the prairies in Saskatchewan on a farm, but my parents were sort of open-minded thinkers. In fact, my mom started selling encyclopedias when we were teenagers so that we would have a set. Once we got our set, she quit because that was her goal. But we would sit around and read the encyclopedias in the evening because they were so interesting and talk about things like that. So it gave us sort of a bigger worldview. And then my sister went to Europe. I have an older sister. She went to Europe, um, when she was like 20 or something. And in those days, you had to write letters back. It was that long ago.
Yeah.
And it just, kind of one thing leads to another. But once you get the bug, and then I did my first trip to Europe just after I was married, and I went with my cousin because my husband went, I don't want to do that. You do that. And I got lucky in that he never wanted to control my life. So, yeah, so I've traveled quite a bit. And then we lived in France and traveled around Europe. And that was pretty exciting. So, yeah. And just last year, I went to Paris, to Vienna, to Slovakia, where I have a niece. So I did that trip with my sister. And then my husband and I went to Victoria for about a week for my birthday. And then it was our 50th anniversary. So we decided to do the Maritimes, which we'd never been to. So we flew to Montreal and drove down into the Maritimes and all through there. And then I have a daughter who likes to travel and doesn't really have anybody to travel with. So she calls me up and says, do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? And she wanted to go take a class in Cambridge in July. So, Mom, do you want to come with me? I'm like, sure. That's my automatic answer. Of course I
Yes.
do.
That's wonderful. And you kind of just flitted over the whole France thing. Was that work that took you there? Or why
No,
did you live there? Was it a year?
it was no, not quite a year. The reason the reason it happened was because when I was in high school on the prairies, I I loved French. I just sort of, sometimes something just connects with you. I loved French class and I loved exploring the whole idea of France. And then when I went to, just after we were married, we actually flew to England. My cousin and I stayed with some people there that we had a connection with, and then went across France to Germany, where another cousin her husband was stationed there with the forces.
Mm.
And so I had a taste of being in France, and it always felt comfortable to me. And so I just somewhere along the way got the dream that I would love to live in France, like really experience the culture. And so I just started praying about it and saying, if this is what I'm supposed to do, help me make it happen. And my sister had married a Swiss, so she was living in Switzerland. So we actually had a base to go to. We didn't have anything to go to. We just went, let's wing it. But we sold
Yeah.
our house to do it. And my husband quit his job, and I was self-employed then too. And then we took our kids, who were 7 and 11 at the time, and flew to Europe and stayed with my sister for a couple of months in the winter and went, okay, now what? And we found a position through there's an International Herald Tribune, which is like an expat newspaper. We found a position in Provence at an estate owned by an American couple. It was like an 18th century holiday estate of the aristocracy.
Ooh.
It was very ooh, and she was they were antique collectors from the 1700s, and she collected costumes as well. And they needed the place to look lived in and somebody to feed the dogs. They had a gardener, but they wanted somebody to feed the dogs, and they took us on. So we spent about 3 months there, actually. That we wanted to stay longer, but then they had a change of plans, and then we went, should we look for something else in Europe? But because my husband was born in England, so he could work in the EC countries. So we considered different things. And then we decided, given the age of our kids, I actually homeschooled the kids while we were there and while we were traveling, and it was great. It was fantastic. And then we decided we should probably go back to Canada. And when we came back, we decided to live in BC rather than Alberta, just because his parents were here, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
like the springtime better because the daffodils are up now.
I won't tell you how much snow we have. That sounds wonderful, and you know, uh, and of course, I will talk at different points or ask you at different points about your faith, because obviously you said you prayed about it and you asked for help in making it happen. So I know that that is a common thread that runs through all your videos. So we will get
Mhm.
there. The point I was trying to make a while ago, though, and started the story wrong, is you did a recent video titled I Stopped, something to the effect about how you stopped caring.
Yep.
And just to give the listeners some context here, that video only got 139,000 views. You poor, poor thing. How
I
can you
know.
possibly go on with viewership like that?
Yeah, I know. That one was like, whoa. I kept watching it climb and climb, and I'm like, oh, this hit a nerve. Yeah. And everybody, the most common comment I get on my videos for the last several months is you could have been talking to me, or this is my life. That was that
Yes.
one. I so relate. Or your voice is so calming and I just feel calmed down. And but people have told me for my entire life that I calm them down just to be around me. And I guess it's because I'm just naturally a calm person.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen the video, I see Teresa has put the link in the chat. So, don't leave here to go watch it, but do watch it. Um, So how do you I mean, other than, the calm voice and obviously content that people enjoy, do you have any possible explanation for your 20,000 plus subscribers and the incredible view numbers that you're getting? Because many of the people in the chat or watching it are fellow YouTubers, and and we struggle.
Yeah.
We always want more than what we
Hmm.
have.
Before December, I had 7,700 subscribers, and that's from like almost 6 years of working at it. And I came to the point, like I mentioned before when we were talking, that uh, I was going to go, okay, should I quit doing this and concentrate on other things? Or should I keep going? And the reason I kept going, number one, is because I enjoy it. I actually like making the videos. But also because I'd seen other channels that are doing so well. I thought, I know it is possible. It's just a matter of figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I decided, I realized I don't really want to do demos and teach people things um, because I don't love teaching. And I've done art classes and in person and stuff like that. And it's like, I can do it, but I just don't really love it. And I thought, here I am at this age, I want to do stuff that I love.
Yes.
And I enjoy making videos and I enjoy the interaction with people. But once I came to the end of okay, I don't want to make art for people to learn to make art, because whether they do it or not, it doesn't matter to me. I thought, I mean, I'll just be honest. If you want to make art, you go make art. More power to. I mean, I think it's wonderful when people do, and it makes them happy. But I don't need to be part of that. But
That's
what
what,
it,
let me interrupt. That's what I love when somebody can just boldly and baldly say the truth like that. You know,
somebody asked me today,
honestly.
someone asked me today if I wanted to join a plein air group and paint outdoors, and I
Yeah.
said no. She's like, I said, well,
Yeah. Almost hardly any women are capable of saying the word no with a
mm,
period after it. If we do manage to say no, we always offer explanations,
yes,
excuses, rationale, apologies, and you name it. But anyway, carry
yeah.
on.
Anyway, when I was sort of going through this, should I or shouldn't I thought, hey, what do I really want to do? I thought, I really want to talk about life. I want to talk about stuff I'm going through. I want to connect with people on that level. Um, because I'm an introvert, I'm kind of an empath. It's like I think about life and how it works and how I understand people and how they what their emotions are doing and things like that. And I'm an encourager by nature. It's like I can be your cheerleader.
Yes.
Like, you're going through a tough time, honey. Let's hang on. We can do this. And so I thought, I just want to talk about what I want to talk about. And so I just did some. And then, actually, people who do channels say you should have a plan. You should plan everything out. I don't do that. I totally wing it. I go, Lord, what should I talk about today? What should I talk about this week? And things will start to sort of percolate, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of been bothering me, or this has been on my mind. and then I think about it some more, and then I go to Chat GPT and go, I'm thinking about this and blah blah blah. Can you add anything? And it just kind of helps me develop the idea, and that's where it comes from. And then the other thing that's really helped was to change how I was doing them. So to do the voiceover
Oh, yeah.
and just do regular stuff in the background. Like if I'm painting, I want to be painting anyway. So if I film it, that covers two things at once, because then I use that film as the backdrop for the talking.
Yes.
And the talking, and then it shortened the amount of time it took me to film and edit a video. So now I can do it, including the thumbnails and everything, in probably 3 hours.
So I did I'm going to circle back to something you said, but what I wrote down in my notes about your YouTube strategy, or my observations, are the videos are short. They are shot in situ. So, you've done some on the deck and some in the studio and some on a park bench.
Yeah.
And you use a lot of, and this may come from that TubeBuddy thing, numbers, 7 ways to such and such, or
Mhm.
10 easy, I'm obviously just making this up and throwing it out there, but
Yeah.
those sorts of videos where you've distilled the message down to a number of points, and those are the points you're going to cover. So do you, in a video like that, I get the feeling that you have prepared your thoughts and maybe written out your message.
Mhm.
I think there's some ad-libbing, but I also think that there is kind of almost like a script or a series of points you want to make. Is
Yeah.
that how you approach that?
Yeah, I've tried like winging it when I'm talking. I find I just found I had too much hesitation and too much let me think about that, you kind of have to keep talking, or else you
Yeah.
have to do a lot of editing, which takes a long time.
Yeah.
And so I discovered that if I write it out so that I can read it, so then I don't have all those hesitations. And I
Yes.
do ad lib and add things that I haven't thought about until I'm actually doing it. Sorry about the wiggle. So that's how I do it.
Okay, so you started out that whole section by saying before December, or in December, you had 7,700 subscribers. So what in the world gave you the 13,000 subscriber jump that we see today? Or 12?
I stopped caring. That was the one. No, the first one was, if you like to be at home, this video is for you. That's what jump started it. So that's the title of the video, because lots of people our age like to be at home.
Yes.
So that one really got going. And then the real viral one was I stopped caring. And if you haven't seen it, I didn't stop caring about everything. I stopped caring about things that aren't my job to care about. And it
Yes.
basically sets you free from carrying everybody else's stuff. And so what happens with people is they find one that they really like, and it's like, what else does she have? And so lots of people in the comments have said, I'm watching all your videos now. And I've watched a
Yes.
whole bunch. And I see their names keep coming up with different videos because they really got something and they really resonated with me. And, so it makes me kind of go, I'm on the right track, for me anyway.
I wasn't expecting that to be the answer. I truly didn't know that 1 or 2 blockbuster videos can do that to subscriber numbers. I thought that it was an evolution, and changes from crafting to talking, from looking at your hands to looking at you make coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Um that it was a a little gradual cumulative thing. But so that I think that's a little glimmer of hope for people. And I mean, it
Yeah.
has to be, I would say that or I'm guessing that it has to be sincere and it has to be
Mhm.
in character because
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is something out there called clickbait. And it's one of those things you can do that once, but if you've misled people or tricked
Mhm.
them into watching your video, they're not coming back
No.
and they're not subscribing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do spend quite a bit of time on titles and the text on the thumbnails. And that's what I use TubeBuddy for, to do that kind of technical stuff, because it does make a difference. And sometimes I think I've got the perfect name for this because it's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And then I run it through that, and they're like, no, that's not a great one. Nobody's going to
No,
get that.
thanks for playing. But
Yeah.
no, Wendy, that's
Yeah.
not it.
Yeah. No, that's not going to resonate because that's not what people are searching for. So a lot of
Yeah.
it is what people are actually searching for. So if you've got a problem and you want to find an answer,
Yeah.
you're going to use certain words,
Yeah.
and so that makes quite a big difference to get, getting having people click on the videos,
Yeah.
and also knowing your audience. Like, this is sort of basic business stuff. It's like, who are you talking to? And
Yeah.
it takes a while, quite often, to figure out who exactly you're talking to, because if you say everybody, then it's nobody. It really has
Yeah.
to be quite specific. So before, when I was doing different topics, I would look at my statistics and go, well, who are the people that are coming to listen to me? And excuse me. And gradually it became clear who they were, and they were women in my age group, like 60 and up. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So then I sort of, instead of trying to reach everybody who likes to craft or who likes art or likes watercolor or whatever, I went, okay, what do people in this age group like? And what are our problems? Not just their problems, but what are, like,
Yeah.
my problems?
Yeah.
What kind of things am I dealing with? And are my friends dealing with? And what would I talk about with my girlfriends? And a lot, like, some of the things that we deal with at this age is stuff that happened a long time ago, like in your childhood,
Yeah.
or how we were brought up in the culture of those decades when we were like young married women and having
Yeah.
kids and all. Like, a friend of mine said once, I don't remember the 80s because I had little kids.
The whole decade gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a question in the video, I mean in the chat, that I want to get to. So Christina's asking, do you name the video before or after you record? And how much preparation do you do beforehand?
Okay. I have an idea more, like, I made notes for one. Don't let difficult people steal your peace, was what came to me when I was like doing stuff in the bathroom. But when I ran it in through TubeBuddy, it was, I had to mess around with it a little bit to make it a better title. So I guess the answer is no. It's more of a concept. I have a concept, and so I don't name it till I've actually done a little research on how to word things so that it actually attracts the algorithm and the people who would be looking for it. And was there a second half to that? I forget now.
Uh, well, how much preparation do you do beforehand?
Okay, the preparation I do is what I've already mentioned about thinking it through and making notes and
Yes.
getting it sort of a script. And what I've started doing more and more is doing the background, which is called B-roll, uh, as I'm sort of doing things. So, I might, like, I have part of a little clip in a video recently where I went to HomeSense and was just
Oh,
looking around at things. So I just kind of took some pictures there, and I've done some things like that because, as a strategy, what works for people is not lots, but jump cuts, which is going from one scene to another. But I've seen videos where like they're flashing stuff. Like I said this word, so I'm going to flash a picture that I got from somewhere, and
Yeah.
I don't like to watch that. But it's
Yeah.
kind of like when you watch a TV show, it goes, here's the scene in the kitchen, and then here's the scene getting into the car. And those kind of things tell a story,
Yeah.
and people really like stories. I mean, we're all like that. We love stories. So if you can tell a story with your visuals, that helps to keep people engaged. And then you usually get longer watch time, and longer watch time means more AdSense revenue. So
Yes. So for people in the chat, know that most, well, I think maybe without exception, and sorry if I haven't acknowledged you, like Susan is here now, and I thought somebody, and Hope, um, maybe I'm caught up with that. The reason I'm maybe belaboring this a bit is because, we are fellow YouTubers. So I'm
mm,
thinking that this is of interest because, again, I think we all have a deep, oh, and Debbie, hi, Debbie. Um, we all have, we're not doing it because anyone has a gun to our heads. We're making YouTube videos because it truly makes us happy at some level.
yeah.
And most of us want to see results for the time and blood, sweat, and tears and effort that we're putting into it. So if we can improve our numbers, our ad revenue, and so on, so much the better. Um, the thing that, and maybe this is partly the age I'm at or the cynic that is in me, but how sometimes I think I resist using some of these tools or paying well people in the chat will attest to this. I often say I don't really give a damn what the algorithms say because I want to be authentic.
Mhm.
I want to please myself first, and if anyone else happens to like it, well, that's gravy. But I think it's also tied up with the whole idea that I have a real aversion for things like AI because I keep thinking the minute I stop using my own noggin for thinking some of this stuff through, like use it or lose it. If we don't
Mhm.
use our own brains, they they shrivel up and die. So, how do we find a balance between using our own intellect, creativity, and taking advantage of something like TubeBuddy, which is, SEO optimization,
Mhm.
search term optimization, without losing our own humanity and authenticity.
That's a really good question. Um, I think it depends on your goals, what you want your channel to do for you and for the people who watch you. And I think of some of these things as just time savers. It's like, yeah, I could clean my kitchen floor down on my hands and knees, or I could use a mop. And so it's like it saves me time, and the result is actually better because it sounds better, and all of that feeds into my goal, which is to make money from my channel and to make a difference in people's lives somehow. So when you look at it that way, it's like, what is the best way for me to do that? And as far as using a tool instead of using your brain, well, humanity's been doing that for forever, and we still have working brains. But well, at least we hope.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think when you're a creative person, you're using your brain all the time, and if you're not opposed to learning is so good for your head, and I'm learning new things all the time. So
Yeah.
something and with the computer and the internet and all those things, you have to learn things all the time in order to keep up.
Yeah.
So you learn to use something new, and then you go, okay, I can use this. It'll save me time and it'll get me closer to my goal, or feed
Yeah.
into that. And also there's other ways, like I I studied conservatory piano for 12 years. And then, like, for the last few years, I've hardly touched the piano. And I thought, what am I doing? I've got to get back to playing the piano because it's good for my head. And so, stuff like that is, and just doing new things.
Yes.
Like traveling is a good example. It's like there's a lot you have to think about. And you go to a foreign country, how are you going to deal with the language and the money and, all those things. It keeps I'd say it keeps you young,
Yes.
and vibrant, because you have an outward look, outward view.
Okay, so clearly I have to keep the show must go on here, but you can be sure that I'm going to be thinking about what you're saying, because I believe in lifelong learning, and God knows I've learned a lot of stuff that I never thought I would. And technology is the perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
It's like learn it or be roadkill on the information highway. Do you remember when information highway was the expression for the
Yes.
internet? I
Yes.
didn't want to be roadkill. So there are a couple questions and I want to get to those.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that um I'm going to be thinking hard about what you said, because I am of the firm belief that I'm not going to live long enough to make all the mistakes myself, or like my philosophy is learn from other people's successes, learn from other people's failures.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know something that I don't know, that I could quickly adapt if it feels right and makes sense in my life, then I want to do that, just as you say, to save time and be more efficient. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I've got homework. I got thinking homework to do after this. Okay, Tracy is saying, Wendy, have you ever felt like you need a break? How do you navigate these feelings or manage them?
Yes, I have, and I've actually taken a couple of breaks from my YouTube channel of a few months, because I was feeling kind of burnt out and unfocused and things like that. It did have an impact on my channel, but I just went, I need to do this. As far as taking a break, like going on vacation, I I work ahead. So because I have a once a week video for the like 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time, I'll make all the videos that are going to come out while I'm gone, and just
Mhm.
set them up and schedule them out so that I can have a break and not even think about it. And same with my newsletter, which I do for newsletter subscribers. So I don't know if that covers exactly the tone that you're after.
Yeah, I'm not well, I think, between what you've just said and what you said before, that I think probably addresses her question. But if it doesn't, Tracy, just maybe clarify or dig down in a comment and we'll circle back. So Christina's no, of course. She said, I do that sometimes. I'm naming this video Leftovers Make Great Sandwiches and forget the searchability sometimes. So I guess, that was, I guess, a response to what I was saying about, the heck with algorithms, and um thumbnails grab attention, titles for SEO, that is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And like in YouTube Studio, of course, they will offer hints. But again, because I was stubborn, I didn't look at any of their hints. Um, but I guess it's kind of like who am I what am I proving to who by doing that? If
Yes.
there is help available, then
Good
grab
question.
it.
Yeah.
That expression about how does that go? Something anyway about noses. in spite of your face or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Cut off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just
Let's
say something else? Because you
Sure.
mentioned this and it gave me a thought about being authentic.
Yeah.
I think it's important if you have a YouTube channel to do what you really want to do. Even though, like, I spent time doing a lot of research on YouTube and seeing what other people were doing and what was working for them and that kind of thing. And it basically led me down a path that really wasn't for me. I had to kind of come back to go, okay, what do I really want to do? What do I really love to do?
Yeah.
And just be yourself when you talk. That's good advice.
Yeah. I remember one of the, and this may be the very first video of yours that I ever saw. It would have been the title that grabbed it because, if we subscribe to a couple hundred or more channels, there's a lot in the feed. So I didn't, in the last few days, I didn't go back and look for it and rewatch it or anything like that. But it was the one that you had done about, you know, again, I don't remember how the title was worded, but basically you were saying don't make yourself look or seem older than you really are, like maybe 10 things to avoid
Oh yeah.
being older than you are. And the
Yeah.
one thing that stuck, I mean, it was all good and it made me laugh. And that is a personal criteria for me as well. I want to I want to be inspired, I want to be informed, I also want to be entertained. So I thought, I still remember to this day that you were talking, how older men or men reach a point where they start wearing those pants that are sagging in the seat and are
Yes.
so ill-fitting. And I thought, oh my God, this woman is so funny. Again, who says stuff like that? But I thought right on the money. So yeah, I thought that was my first exposure to you. And it seems that many of your topics are serious and deep, and
Mhm.
that too appeals to me because I am a thinker. Um, so are you like what is motivating you more? Like there's in personal development circles, there's this belief that two things um motivate us or change our behavior: the pursuit of happiness or the avoidance of pain.
Yeah.
So are most of your topics, well, maybe that's a dumb question. Is there, which of those things more often are you trying to focus on? Or is it really a hybrid of each? Because by
I don't
avoiding pain, we should, in theory, be give ourselves pleasure, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really think about that in those terms. Really, a lot of business stuff is if you want to succeed, solve people's problems. And
Yes.
so that's kind of part of it. It's like I said earlier, stuff I'm going through or stuff I've seen friends go through, or just, stuff that comes with being older. Like I did one about being invisible because you get to a certain age and people sort of dismiss you, and
Yeah.
and it can actually be kind of freeing because then you can think, well, if you're not going to pay any attention to me, I'll just do whatever I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I can't answer that directly because I don't really think
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Well, and it may not have, it just something that popped into my head. So I probably wasn't very articulate there. I want to say hello to Joanne and Sandra, who have just joined us. So great to have you ladies here as well. Oh, and okay. So let me just carry on, take a quick look at my notes here. Um, there's so much. Like you mentioned your farm background, and I tend to believe that that people who kind of grow up on a farm have a particular work ethic and down to earth quality that, it's kind of born and bred into us. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've often said, if you want to hire someone who knows how to work, hire a farm kid,
Yeah.
because you learn how to work when you're
Yeah.
on a farm.
Exactly. Um, I like that on your website, your tagline is paintings of beautiful places and meaningful spaces. I thought that was a lovely turn of phrase.
Thank you.
Um, where I've written things that were direct quotes, I have in one video you said that you choose to be happy in spite of.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really great advice.
Yeah, it is. I think, and I'll tell the story a little bit here. I was going through the first 5 years of my 50s were awful because, and it didn't get a whole lot better in the second half. But I was going through, like, menopause hit me right around 50, and perimenopause about 47 or something, and it just kind of went downhill from there. And then, and I couldn't sleep, which made me, I was just exhausted all the time. And I was running my business and trying to make two things succeed and all that at the same time. Plus, my husband, there was a downturn in the economy or something, I forget. And his job changed and he wasn't happy. And so if you live with an unhappy man, it comes with its own special, things. Um, and I was basically just plugging along, trying to keep all the balls in the air and everything afloat and myself afloat. And my sister came over one day and we were just talking, and she said, "Wendy, how do you do it?" Because she knew what was going on. I said, "Well, I just choose to be happy in spite of, not because there was no because of to be had
Yeah.
that I could see. But I'm generally a positive person anyway, and I want to be a happy person. So I made the choice. I'm a happy person and I'm going to be happy. And in order to do that, there's some strategy. And that is, some of those are things like paying close attention to what actually makes you happy. And it could be really small things, like the way colors look together, or what the breeze feels like, or the hummingbirds at the feed, or just paying attention to small things, and extracting happiness from them, and also making plans that will make you happy. Like, depending what you love to do. If you want to walk by a lake, we're like a 10-minute drive from a huge lake, and just going to the lake and sitting on a bench made me happy. And shopping makes me happy because because I love color and visual activity, that just walking through a store like HomeSense for 20 minutes
Yeah.
gives me a lift. So I was choosing to be happy in spite of all the other stuff that was going on. My parents were dying at the same time. you know my
Yeah.
business was dying, my parents were dying. I was dealing with my dad's care, and then he passed away, and then my mom was on the farm by herself, and then she passed away, and then I was the executor on the will, and this went on for like 10, 12 years. And um, and I had to deal with, like, I had to sell a farm, and there were oil land rights on the farm for oil companies, and deal with all those
Yes.
things. Plus I had clients. I was working with authors at the time, and so I had piles of work, sometimes dealing with people, and yeah, it was difficult. And so I just went one day at a time. Plus I wasn't sleeping with a hoot.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of kind of getting through it.
Yeah. Tracy is saying in all caps, Wendy, I love the choose to be happy in spite of, not because of. And
Oh, thank
Sandra, who joined us late, she says, now get this, she says that she hears a Canadian accent. We don't have accents.
you. No, we don't.
Wendy lives in British Columbia, so she's my provincial neighbor. Okay. Time is flying by and I'm loving this. However, we haven't really talked about some of the nitty-gritty in your life, which
Okay.
is you mentioned the fact that you've always been creative. So typically, I like to ask a question about that. So did you like are you do you sew and we know that you paint do you sew and knit and all those things? Did you learn them at your mother's knee? And have you been were you the kind of person that always did whatever was hot at the moment, whatever the fad was in the craft world?
Okay, good question. I I was I was creative from very early on. I started I remember drawing on walls when I was about 3, and my mother directed my efforts onto different mediums. But um, yeah, my mom was very creative. My dad was very musical, and my mom was also very let's try anything, you know. And she sewed extremely well, and she just made us learn stuff.
Yeah.
So I was sewing my own clothes by the time I was 10, and I learned to knit, and I learned to crochet, and we were in 4-H, so we had horses, and did all that kind of stuff. And just kind of, I think a go for it kind of mentality was part of our family. And then I did a year of fine arts at the University of Calgary. And then I met my husband and went, I'm not really sure what I can do with this fine arts thing. Should I keep going or not? And then I decided not to keep going because I was too puzzled. Coming off the farm where you've gone to a small high school and you don't have a clue what's available out there. And in university they don't really tell you this is where
Yeah.
you can go with this. It's just like
Yeah.
this is how you use charcoal. So
And it was a different time and place.
yeah.
I said to you when we were off before we went live that I feel so many connections to you, and that was even before we got into a real conversation, that I thought we could have been twins that were separated at birth. So when you talk about, like the farm upbringing and the and just the era in which all of this was happening,
Yeah.
it's totally different. And I'm not sure that younger people really get that when us old timers talk about it in that way. I just wanted to point out, though, the same gal that was asking if you had a Canadian accent, she's in the Washington State, and she's on the border to a Soyuz,
Oh, okay.
just across the border. So that's pretty close, isn't it?
Well, it's about a 3.5 hour drive from here.
Well, that's peanuts.
Yes. For Canadian, it's totally peanuts.
Yes. Um, so I mentioned in your introduction that you're an author. So you have, and tell me if I heard this correctly. In one of the videos, I th- you've I don't know if you're still doing it, but you have been a coach to other authors. But
Yeah.
I thought you said in the video that you are a coach and you have a coach.
Okay, that's two different things. Um, okay, I started. Well, I've always liked anything artistic. So I in high school I loved writing, and one day I had an idea for a book, and I mulled it over for a while, and I thought, I wonder if I have enough words in me to write a novel. So I just started writing it, and I'm good at making stuff up as I go along. So I didn't have I had a clear idea of what it was going to be about, but I basically made it up as I went along, and I had a ton of fun doing it. And then a couple of years later, I wrote a sequel to it. In the meantime, I wrote a nonfiction, stuff like that. Anyway, this was just at the time when when Amazon was getting big, and they started their publishing arm, which then was called CreateSpace and is now called Kindle Direct Publishing. And somebody in some writers group got wind of me having self-published my book. So I was, because I read a lot, and I was in a book group for 22 years. I knew good writing, and I also have a cousin who is an editor, or was, and so she edited my work and I edited her work, and and then I did the book design. I figured out how CreateSpace worked, and I put it all together, and I published my own book. I thought that was easy. And so somebody got wind of this and then asked me if I would come and speak to their writers group down in Langley, which is about an hour's drive from here. And from that, people started saying, well, can you help me? Can you edit my book? Can you do the book design? Can you help me publish? Can you do all this? And I went, yeah, I can make money at this. I'm kind of entrepreneurial, by nature, and used to that farm upbringing where you need something, you just go down to the shop and make it, or you need something to wear, you just go sew it.
Yeah.
So once I'd figured it all out, I said yes. And then I have a friend who is a business coach, and I got coached by her for nothing because we're friends. So she said, here's how you put it all together and, make a good income out of it. So I started doing that. And I never really marketed after that, because all those people told all their friends.
Yeah.
And I had a steady supply of clients. In fact, one of them is on his 6th book. And I said, you realize I retired from that like 3 years ago? He goes, please. So he said, I'll pay you anything. I went, oh, okay.
That's just my price range.
I can work with that. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I kind of got into the coaching of the authors. But after my mom passed away, and I had to do the whole estate and all that, and once it was settled, I thought, okay, what I really want to do is paint. So I'm just going to paint. So that's what happened. But I did that, and I have, I think, 29 books or something on Amazon. Some of them are, like, I did some coloring books based on my time in France, and I did some blank journals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I did some collaborations with an author in Florida that we met online and worked together for about 10 years.
Was that Suzanne?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that because I did look at your offerings, and there was everything from romance to nonfiction, which was the histamine book, and like you say, a couple of journals, and I was one, but I don't think we're going to get to that question, which would have been, co-writing a book. But okay, so obviously one of the videos I watched, now I don't know how long ago that was, whether this is old information or not. You took part in, or you had a booth selling your paintings and art cards and so on at a women's show.
Yep.
And I love the fact that you were very candid about whether or not that was a good thing. Because I think any of us who have ever done the trade show, Christmas fair, that sort of circuit, you sometimes wonder, I just gave up how many days of my life for exposure? You can't deposit exposure in your bank account.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really interesting. And the fact that, it just seemed to be another example of you calling a spade and not glossing it over. And, oh, I've never made a bad decision in my life. So of course it was a success. Why do you ask? That kind of,
right. Yeah.
Blowing smoke kind of thing that some people do.
Yeah. I don't like fakery. And usually I can see it in other people, and it just, it doesn't work for me.
So, you obviously sell your work on your website. Do you regularly have gallery shows. Are you going to do a women's show or something similar again? What's the status of that?
Okay, well, what I'm doing, yeah, and I should say a lot of these things are experiments to see if they work,
Yeah.
because fine art is a hard sell,
Yes.
and there's sort of two price ranges for original art. And I watched a really good video by another artist just recently where she actually took a poll with the general public buying art and art collectors buying art, and how they view pricing differently. And and really, when it comes to it, you have to kind of pick, you have to figure out what lane you want to be in.
Yeah.
And so I did this women's show to see, uh, I wanted to do some market research to see if people would actually liked my work, because I haven't been out there with it all that much. I used to do a lot of watercolors, and this acrylics was a different direction. Um, and I wanted to see if I could sell anything and what price ranges worked. And so what I did was I asked people. I had a friend who volunteered to come and work with me, and she was fantastic, very outgoing person. I find when I get tired, I don't care if things sell or not. I just have no energy for it. I'm not a high energy person anyway. And usually by the time you get to the show and it starts, you're already tired.
Yeah.
Anyway, she came on board for a few hours one afternoon, and she was like, she's just hauling people into my booth. And she was like, okay, look at everything and tell me which ones jump out at you. And that was excellent market research, because what people liked were the ones that they said, oh, I could walk right in there and sit down. I could, like, you can probably see that one.
Yes. It's
That's one of
lovely.
that's one of my newer ones. And the one behind my head is a little cafe. Um, and I thought, this is wonderful research, because those are the ones that I like painting the most. So that was so valuable for me. It was worth the cost of the show, but I also sold enough to make a profit. But I decided that shows were not the best venue for me to sell originals, like, unless they were low priced. So I know an artist who I've gotten to know because I go to the shows for market research, and her bestseller is $35, and it's originals, but they're easy to paint, they're quick, and they appeal to people who, like barnwood and trees and
Yeah.
raccoons and stuff like that I don't paint.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to kind of choose what you want your life to look like first. And I went, after that show, I went, you know what? At my stage in life, I don't have the energy to do shows. I just don't.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many. Like a true art show, there's not that many.
Yes.
But I have some, like, I have to go tomorrow to pick up a painting that's been in a gallery in Abbotsford for a month. I joined a bunch of artist groups around me who
Yes.
have shows. I have sold so far nothing through those shows. Even like 8x10s that are, $50 to $70. It's not a fine art buying area, I guess,
Yes.
or because nobody else is really selling much either. So it makes me go, okay, where am I going to go with this? I really want to keep painting, and I love producing product. And when I had my wholesale business, I sold to gift shops, and my product line had my art on it, and I love gift shops. So I thought,
Yes.
hmm. So just this past weekend, I have a space in a local gift shop in a provincial park where it's a historical thing, right? Place. And I was like, this is great. I'm back into gift shops. So I'm going to
Yeah.
I'm kind of wandering off. Do you want me to keep going?
Well, no, it's all very interesting, and I think it proves, like, I mean, I've been down that path as well, where, belonging to art guilds and prepping for the spring, show and sale, and then the
Yeah.
fall show and sale, And I remember somebody coming to our group and talking about, I think this was just when giclée prints were a new thing,
Yeah.
and how a person could, kind of sell the same piece over and over again at a more affordable price. Yeah, if any of us had the real answer to this thing, we'd be gazillionaires. But instead, we just keep trying different things, presumably because it's part of the desire to keep learning and growing and trying,
And creating.
and creating. Exactly. Um, yeah, I don't think that there is a one size fits all. And I also think we can't underestimate just how much people are suffering economically as well. It's a very uncertain time.
Very.
Um, Let me just have a quick look down down these notes of mine. I'll just throw out a few random things. I don't know that they are actually real questions as such, but these are some of the observations that I made. In one video, you said, do what's happy, for goodness sake. And I thought, indeed. um, your tolerance for conflict and foolishness is gone. You want more freedom and more creativity. You have said turn the TV down or off because of that, that noise. Be aware of what's going on without getting sort of submerged and sucked in by I guess I've heard an expression lately, and maybe it's intended to describe people on their phones, but there's probably an equivalent for TV watching, and it was doom scrolling. Like
Yeah.
there's no end to the horror and the grief we can see if we look for it. Avoid anxiety producers, even if those things are people. That you've always needed. And I'm not going to ask you my typical "are you an introvert" question, because we already know the answer to that. But I thought it was interesting that you said there you were, a farm kid, and even as a kid you needed time alone, whether that was separating yourself from everyone else and going and sitting in the bale stack, just or in the barn, just to have that time to re-energize and regroup and think. Like, I think that's such a commonality in the people that I interview and in the people, for the most part, who are in the audience. Yes, we can all turn on fire up our energy, turn on the charm, be engaging and interested and interesting. But it takes so much out of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, So you call yourself an outgoing introvert, but you are also a highly sensitive person. Now, when you say that, are you talking back to some of the things that are happening in your body, like in terms of uh, those things, or are you talking about feelings or a combination of both?
It's kind of a combination of both. A lot of it is the way I see it, and what I've read about it is for really highly sensitive people, it's that your nervous system is just more sensitive than the greater part of the population. So if you're the kind of person that startles really easily, which totally is me, my husband, if I'm in the bathroom and he comes in the house, he walks down the hallway making noise, because if he shows up in the door, it almost gives me a heart attack. So, there's just that kind of physical part.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's both things, but it really helps to know, like, when I was able to pinpoint it with Elaine Aron's book, The Highly Sensitive Person. Like, starts with a quiz, and I'm like, I just got 100% on this test.
Finally.
Right. No,
100%.
no, like no wonder these things happen to me. So once you know that, you can protect yourself a little bit more. If lots of noise really wears me out.
Yeah.
Like if my husband plays the radio in the kitchen while he's doing the dishes, it drives me bonkers. So he turns it off. He's very considerate. He turns it off as soon as I come near. And I'm like, thank you very much. Otherwise, I'll scream.
Um, Often and I apologize to people in the chat who've heard me talk about this. I should be getting a commission for every time I talk about this book. Are you familiar with the book Refuse to Choose by Barbara Sher, Sher?
I've read quite a
Because
few of her books. Yeah.
that one was a life-altering experience
Mm,
for me. I
mhm.
thought, man, oh man, how, like, what the heck is wrong with me? Why can I not stick with something? What about those people that pick a life path, pick a career at 18 and
Mhm.
stay there like a life sentence
Right.
until
And they're
they
the
get the
ones
gold
telling you that
watch?
that's how you have to do it.
Yeah. And it seems that that too resonates with so many people that are in this crowd, in that we're not dilettantes, we're not lazy, we're not whatever, um, jack of all trade, master of none.
Mhm.
We, in fact, are interested in a wide variety of things. And once we get satisfied by the experience, once we learn as much as we need to, once we have done it as long as we need to,
Mhm.
we are on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, based on some of the things that you've said, if that does not describe you as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I think about 30 years ago, I wrote a list of things I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I've done quite a few of them, but they were quite diverse, you
Yeah.
know. And and I wouldn't say we're not the master of anything, but once you I think what it is once there's no more challenge and curiosity,
Yes.
the the joy kind of goes out of it. So
Yeah.
that I when I've looked for things to do, like when my youngest daughter was little, she was like 4. I needed to get some kind of job, and I sat down and thought, what do I need? I need flexibility, variety, autonomy. And so I just went, okay, God, this is what I need. I need these things in order to be happy and to be able to keep doing something. And what came across my path was doing sculptured nails. So I trained to be a nail technician, and I did that for about 5 years, and I paid for all our airfare to move to Europe with it. And after I came back, it's like I don't think I want to do that again. But there
Yeah.
was enough of those 3 things in there. So knowing yourself is a huge difference, and being honest about what you really want, because there's voices coming at us all the time. You have to do this, you have to do that, you should, you know, but really you have to go. It's so wonderful to hear someone say, you don't really have to choose because you're the kind of person who needs flexibility and creativity, and so what kind of path can you find that has all those things built into it so that you can keep going in it.
Yeah.
And for me, being in business and making art does that. I might
Yeah.
change exactly how it looks along the way, but I'm still doing it.
Yeah. And for sure, those things, those qualities, and I made note of them, flexibility, variety, and autonomy, those things are never going to be found in working for someone else. So
Not
we
usually.
tend to be entrepreneurial, self-starters, and have side gigs and hustles, and do sometimes things for short terms, like you said with the nail story.
Yeah.
And then when we're done with that, it's on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can accuse us of having moss growing on under us.
Yes.
Um, okay, what else have we got here? Empathetic. I think in quite a few of your videos, you're also uh, giving permission. You're giving permission to people to um, maybe change their thinking, stick up for themselves, take a stand, say no. Like, obviously the permission or the awareness that you're bringing to it is different from video to video depending on the topic.
Yeah.
But that one, the very popular one about I stopped caring, essentially by articulating, by saying out loud what so many of us have thought in our little hearts,
Mm-hmm.
um, it is a form of permission giving
It
that,
is.
okay, look, this big star on YouTube said it, so it must be okay.
Yeah.
I can do it too in my own small way, in my own small life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that that's very powerful.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think it's very important as well, because I think, especially women in our age group, grew up in a way that we were told what we could and couldn't do for our entire lives. And to come to the realization somehow that, hey, I could actually do whatever I want to. I get to, my husband says this all the time, you get to choose. I'm like, I'm using that. You get to choose.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful. In fact, some of the ways that I dress too have allowed people to go, well, if she can do that, that means I can do it. I'm like, yes, of course you can. Like if
Yeah.
you want to do it. And I really believe in, I think we need permission because of the culture, and that's an important thing. I'm glad that you noticed that, but it is an important thing to be able to say, you don't have to do this, or yes, you can go. Like I would like to go back to Provence where we lived, and if I have to go by myself because nobody else is available, I'll go by myself. You know,
Yeah.
I like
You
I would.
snooze, you lose. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked for a hotel for about 3 years. I was the sales manager, and I actually owned the department. I was the only one because it wasn't a big place, but I had to drive around the countryside and do sales trips. And I remember a friend of mine saying, when I was going up to Prince George, which is like a whole day drive, a long one, um, by myself to do a 4-day trade show. And he said, "You're going up there all by yourself?" And I said, "What's the big deal? You just get in the car and drive up the road.
Yeah.
You can do that anytime." So just being able to tell people that it's not a big deal, just go do it. I'm very much for that.
Well, and I think another thing that you and I have in common is the fact that um, sometimes, depending on who we choose to marry, and we've already established that we were child brides. So, what the heck did we know about anything at that age about ourselves, never mind this other person? I think that a long, long time ago, I decided that I'm not going to wait to for a companion or a partner or an escort or whatever. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it, even if it means
Mhm.
doing it by myself.
Yeah.
So, because I think sometimes we fall into the trap of thinking, well, okay, if a person is partnered up with somebody who hates to travel or hates music or whatever the issue is, sometimes people feel like, well, okay, I have to remove that aspect from my life as well in order
Yes.
to, have a happy marriage or keep the peace
Yeah.
or whatever. And that's
I don't
that
buy that.
that's soul destroying.
It is, yeah. You're not joined at the hip, and you're different
Yeah.
people. So, yeah, and it's important that, like, I've been married for 51 years this month. And we say,
Congratulations.
we say we just married the first thing that came along and stuck with it. And sometimes we stuck it with it because we were too tired to do anything about it. But I got married partly because I wanted to have kids and I didn't want to wait a long time. So
Yeah.
and I'm glad I did it that way. But I really agree. I agree with you that you get one life.
Yeah.
Are you gonna forgo it just because somebody that you're with says, I don't want you to?
Yeah.
I don't want you to do that.
And at the same time, of course, it's only fair that we extend that same
Totally.
philosophy to, because I believe that we should each be living, and this sounds so trite and like such a cliche, but I think that we should all be striving to live our best lives. And
Mm-hmm.
that includes all the people around us, whether they're a spouse or a child or a grandchild or whoever.
Yeah.
We should be trying to see the spark in that person and fan the flame, so to speak,
Yeah.
so that everyone is pursuing rather than trying to fall into step and be a square peg in a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. Anyway, I'm seeing some. I haven't said hello to some people here, so I should do that. Sean and Cynthia, and I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody. And Jonna. Um, oh, Judy said, this is way back. I'm very sensitive to noise also. I quit a job once partly because my coworker insisted on having the radio on all of the time.
Oh,
And that's a perfect example of honoring one's own needs
yeah.
and consequences be damned, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other people might have chosen to stay there in uncomfortable, unpleasant conditions, tamp down the feelings of unhappiness
And suffer.
and suffer and maybe hope to get a medal or a prize in the end. And for nobody's giving those prizes. We've got to save ourselves. Um, okay, what else have we got here? I thought I saw somebody. Oh, Carol. Oh, Judy, same woman. She's gone to France alone. And of course, oh,
Oh,
now Brenda's here.
maybe we should go together, Judy.
Yeah. Well, and Judy lives in Alberta, so hey, it's not
Oh, hey.
it's not hard. She's actually in Calgary. I interviewed her not so long ago as well. She's a mixed media artist. I hope I am not missing anybody else. My apologies if I have. Um, okay. Uh, I like that in some of your, like um, I have a whole bookcase full of how-to um, writing books. I have
Okay.
the classics. I have them. I have I have them all. And I thought at one time I was going to write the great Canadian novel. And one year, are you familiar with uh, how do you say it? NAMO, NA, National Novel, uh, Nano
Oh,
in
NaNoWriMo?
November,
Yeah.
National November, or no, National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah.
So for people who have never heard of it, it's a global thing, and it is you commit to writing a 50,000 word novel in the space of November.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of resources and help and all that. Anyway, I've been writing a newspaper column for 20 plus years, so I do get my licks in. Um, and it's the title of it is From Where I Sit, with the
Mhm.
implied disclaimer being that it's just one woman's opinion. It's how I see it from where I sit. So I thought it was kind of interesting that in some of your recent videos, you've been doing kind of a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a counselor. And I guess maybe from, you know, just practical common sense, don't want to get sued perspective, it's good to say all that.
Mhm.
But I think it also tells people that, hey, what I'm about to say is my opinion, my lived experience. This is what has worked for me. This is what hasn't worked for me. And I'm sharing it with you. Take it in the spirit in which it's being shared. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, good
Mhm.
luck. keep
Mhm.
going. Keep looking yourself. So is that sort of the approach that you take? Is that what you have in the back of your mind when you say things like, I'm not a counselor?
Yeah, it's a disclaimer because I'm not a professional. I just read a lot,
Yeah.
and I just pay attention to things. So it's basically what I've gleaned from life that I'm sharing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever gotten any pushback from anyone saying, well, you told me to whatever I did and it backfired and now I'm divorced.
No, no, I haven't, because I think I always kind of make it clear that it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
You have to decide. It's
Yeah.
your life. You have to take responsibility. I'm not your mother. Even my own kids, I don't tell them what to do. It's like I
Yeah.
am your mother, but
Yeah.
you still have to decide.
Exactly. Um, Another thing that I have written down here that you've said that for too often you created for as a means to an end.
Yeah.
You want to expand on that a bit because I think sometimes we've all fallen into that trap.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do because if you have a goal, like I want to make money from my art, say, then it's so easy to sort of bend yourself to fit a, a niche or an audience or something where you think you can achieve that goal. But I think what's happened for me is that even if I had been able to achieve it, like doing glue books grew my channel. So my goal was to grow the channel, and doing glue books did that. But it wasn't enough me. So it wasn't authentic enough to what I
Yeah.
really love to do. That's why I said earlier, do things that you love to do, that really give
Yeah.
you a thrill. Because
Yeah.
if they give you a thrill now, and they did 20 years ago, you're on to something good there.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of just looking at what your goal is with that. And if my goal could simply be, I love to paint and I'm just going to keep painting, and if they end up in the dump, well, doesn't matter, I've achieved my goal. But I also want my work, my art, to brighten people's lives.
Yeah.
I want it to give them a feeling. So that's kind of part of it. So if somebody loves my art and goes, oh, I just love that, I wish I was in that scene, it's like I'm succeeding. you know
Yes.
and if they buy
And
it, so much the better.
yeah. Well, true. And I would just say to people that when we're done here, go to Wendy's website. It's just her name, Wendy Doer Hughes. Doer like the whiskey
Yeah,
or Scotch
it's
whiskey.
Scotch whiskey. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, to look at the gallery. And I have to say, some of those interiors are just magnificent.
Oh,
I
thank you so much.
love them. I love them. Um, I think that it's very clear to me when people are trying to chase what is hot.
Mhm.
Like if you were, I don't know what's the hot animal. Remember there was that whole craze where hedgehogs were the thing, and then there were
Yeah.
llamas. You couldn't turn around without hitting
Yeah.
a llama on something.
Right. I think
S-
sloths are big.
Oh, sloths are big now. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so that's that's there's some it seems so disingenuous to me to try to be following trends just
Mhm.
for the sake of being of the moment and making a buck. So I so agree with you when you say do what you love, because honestly the joy is in the doing. Quite often we
Yeah.
know that no artist and no crafter, with very few global exceptions, are ever
Mhm.
going to get what the work is worth. So
Yeah.
damn well better be getting the pleasure out of creating it.
Yeah. And if you
You
can
know?
hit a trend because it's something you already love, or
Yes.
you do it, go in with your eyes open. Like when adult coloring books came along, I went, oh, this is one I can hop on. But I hopped on it my way, which was scenes from the south of France
Yeah.
and Paris. So because I
Yeah.
love France, and
Yeah.
but when I started, I thought this trend is going to last about 2 years, because it was so trendy,
Yeah.
and it actually carried over into about 3, where it was the hot thing, and I made a lot of money selling my coloring books, and
Well,
then it's kind of over.
and and you had your own spin on it because they were postcard sized.
Yeah,
Something that could fit in a purse and wasn't a big commitment. Yeah, we've all got our adult coloring books
yeah.
for sure. Now you can buy them at thrift stores. Um,
Hmm.
so you said in one of your videos that you're a great starter. Um, and sometimes, don't necessarily take it to conclusion, don't necessarily finish it.
Hmm.
Um, I wonder, is that kind of going back to that whole idea of being a scanner? Got what you needed out of it, and there's, I don't need to do this anymore.
um I suppose it partly is. I'm a great idea person. I see great ideas all the time, and I have learned from experience to sit on it for a little while, because sometimes 3 days down the road, it was like, that didn't seem so great anymore. But sometimes I've jumped on it and then had to bail, because same idea. It's like, what was I thinking? And yeah, it's easy to kind of jump on things because I'm excited by new ideas.
Yes.
But I have to sit on them now. I've learned through experience to just, and sometimes I pray about it too. It's like, is this what I like? How do I feel when I see myself doing this in a year? And if it's like, oh wow, this is going to be great, or if it's like, oh, that just makes me feel tired. Those things are really indicative of what's really going on.
Yeah. Well, I wrote that down because I think that that makes a lot of sense to sit on these ideas, and especially if they've come to us, um, maybe I was going to say in a dream or whatever, but that maybe that's not the best example. But I think that many of us can identify with what you've just said.
Hmm.
Sometimes we get an idea, and if we tend to be more impulsive, which I have certainly been over the course of my lifetime, like chop chop, get on with it. Um, yeah, it could be the wrong thing. I do want to talk though about your Christian beliefs, because that is a common thread. You're quoting scripture in
Hmm.
virtually every video that I've seen, or certainly the more recent ones. So maybe give us an idea of how your spiritual practice, how does it manifest in your life? Do you start your day in prayer? Is it a constant thing all day long? Do you meditate? Like how would it look to an outsider?
Oh, you probably wouldn't really see very much, because it's kind of a constant all day thing. I talk to the Lord about anything. If I can't decide what to wear, I just say, Lord, what should I wear? And I've learned over the years to be able to really hear his voice. And one of the ways that is, years and years ago, I said, if I think I've heard your voice, I'm going to assume that I have, and you can correct me if I miss it. And that was really helpful, because then you don't waffle back and forth in confusion. Was that me or was that God? And so I just, it's just kind of, second nature isn't really the right term, but it's kind of like I've been a I've been a Christian for so long like I made the decision when I was 6. My mom was teaching the Sunday school class when she told us, what it is to have Jesus in your life. And I remember thinking, I want that. That was my decision. And so, and I was raised in a Christian home. So, but my parents were never very religious. It's like there's a difference between a relationship with the Lord and performance Christianity or Christianism, doing church and stuff like that. So it's a lifestyle. It's a spiritual lifestyle, I guess I'd say. Excuse me. And it's just a constant. So, I pray about things, and sometimes I don't make a decision because I've prayed about it. It's more of a leading. I feel like I got an opportunity just last week to put some of my stuff in this shop, and I'm like, is that what I should do? Should I do that? It was like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yep, yep. But I check sometimes too. It's like, Lord, if you don't want me to do that, make me feel really. This is especially with ideas. Make me feel ambivalent about it. And if it's what you want me to do, make me feel excited and give me more ideas to back it up. So it's a constant conversation. So does that answer your question?
It's very good, and I think that have you and I suppose part and parcel with having that work in a person's life is to be patient enough to hear the answer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we think that, we've got such a bright idea and rush headlong into doing it, we haven't really had a chance maybe for the answer to come back as to whether or not this is as bright as we thought it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. And I've made big mistakes where I kind of felt like maybe I should, but it shouldn't, but I really wanted to. And it ended very badly. And, it was a life lesson, but,
Yeah.
and then after that, it's like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I'm just going to take my time here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say you hear his voice, you're not hearing an actual voice. It's at the gut level in that things almost feel like well, not dominoes falling, but one thing after another falls into place that reinforces a particular decision or path. Is that
Sometimes it works that way. I've found over the years that the more patient I am and the more I'm in conversation kind of all the time, it comes a lot faster. So I will often just say, Lord, what should I do? And like if I go to my closet and say, I don't know what to wear, what I hear, it's like a thought. It's just a thought.
yeah.
It's a thought that I didn't have. That's how I know it's not me. And it's like, okay, wear that blue sweater and that black jacket. It's like, okay, well, there's a decision I don't need to worry about because those thoughts just popped right into my head.
Yeah.
And so that's how I say I hear it, but it's really just,
Yeah.
it's a spiritual conversation. So you're having thought to thought all the time. And yeah, and sometimes I write them down or I just sit with my journal and go, okay, I'm mulling this over. Should I do this? And or what tell me what I need to know, or what do you think? And then I just write down what comes to me. And I think what's important to learn is that God is always good and never anything but good. And Jesus is the kindest person you could ever hope to meet. If you saw him in person, you'd be instantly in love. And that's what keeps you going. It's like, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am so loved that I'm okay with him all the time. you know.
And trusting that even if the answer you receive is not the one that you were secretly hoping for, but trusting that it is in your best interest in the long run.
Yeah, and just going, okay, I don't understand it, but I'll take the next step, whatever that is. And often, like, he doesn't roll out the whole map. It's
Yeah,
just, I want you to talk to that person. And, you know,
yeah,
things just sort of come together, and you gotta stop worrying about it,
yeah,
and just assume. I just assume that I'm hearing the Lord. And
yeah.
that way I don't have to worry about trust. I heard a good thing about this the other day. Um, Faith is when you know what the path is and you go on it. Trust is when you don't know, but you go anyway. So I thought that was a good description.
That is good. Cynthia says Wendy has a sweet spirited soul. It just shows. Joanne
Thank
says,
you.
has Wendy gotten a monumental sign from God? Does she have a story about that?
I think going to France would probably be it. Yeah, I think the Lord wanted, the Lord knew what would change my husband. He had to have the rug pulled out from under him, and he went big time on it. So yeah, I could say that. The other thing that things that have happened in my life that have a bearing, I think, on a lot of things of how my life went, is I had pneumonia when I was 15, and I was in the hospital for 10 days. It was quite bad. And after I got out, I started having anaphylactic attacks, and
Oh,
and they were life threatening. I nearly died probably about 5 times, and was rushed to the hospital barely. I started carrying adrenaline tablets because EpiPens weren't available. That was before then, but I had to always be on guard for things that set it off. And then when I was 42, I had an ectopic pregnancy, and
oh,
that was a near-death experience as well. The doctor said sometimes they bring me in for all kinds of things, but that night I saved a life. And so those things changed, like they can't not have a bearing when you
yeah,
realize that you could go like that. You kind
yes,
kind of want to be ready. It's like I'm staying close to the Lord because I want to see him in person. That's really important to me. And
yeah.
and so, just having those kind of experiences, that they were pretty monumental.
So when you insert a line of scripture in your videos, is that part of the research you do ahead of time as you're organizing your thoughts and sort of writing your script? You find the one that is just so, or are you so fluent and so knowledgeable of the Bible, that you can just at will come up with the right thing to say?
It's a little bit of both. I don't spend a lot of time researching. Because I know a lot of scripture by heart. I and I the best way to do that is choose one version, like English version, because there's lots of them, and use it only. And I grew up on the old King James version, so those verses I learned in Sunday school and in church and in reading, and a lifetime of reading, basically living a spiritual life because I love it. I know a lot, so those things just come to me. And I think too, it's like what's in you in abundance will leak out, because I for a long time I thought, well, probably shouldn't talk about too much spiritual stuff. And I thought, once I went, I want to talk about what I want to talk about, and that is a huge part of me. So,
Yeah,
and there's application, and
yeah,
so, and a lot of people have in the comments have said, I'm so glad that you use scriptures, because now I can see how it applies to life, and how you're speaking to me. It's like God speaking to me, and people have said that it's like God is speaking through you to me, and it's like, okay, well, he does that all the time, so why not?
yeah. Well, and I think that's another example of authenticity. And yes, it may cost a person some viewers if they don't agree, or they're thinking YouTube isn't where I go for my for sermons or whatever.
Yeah.
But it definitely, if it's is part of your persona and your being, how can you leave such a big thing off the table, so to speak?
Yeah.
Um, Tracy is asking, has anything ever shaken your faith?
Um,
I didn't know we were getting this deep,
I
but
didn't
I
either,
welcome it.
but that's okay. Has anything ever shaken my faith? I wouldn't say so. There have been times when I've been less close than other times, but it was like, even if you're hanging on by a thread, you're still hanging on. I've never let go. So, and I've never had anything happen that I didn't turn toward God instead of away from. So, I hope that answers the question.
Even that decade of all that
That's what I
chaos
was
and
hanging on to the end
yeah,
of the rope. It's like,
yeah,
Lord, you got to help me through this because I knew
yeah,
could see what was coming and how it was turning out, and why can't I sleep? This is awful. And yeah,
yeah.
I just hung on and kept going day after day.
I don't know whether you're aware of this, and probably most people in the chat are, that I and three other fellow YouTubers do a Bible journaling live once a month on a Sunday, and we take turns sort of being the person leading the thing. And we're all on screen, blah, blah, blah. And the conversation is much like this. And we've been at this probably for 9 or 10 months now.
Okay, that sounds
And
cool.
it's been an evolution and a return to this for me. So the practice that I now have is, because I too, Christian, raised that way,
Hmm.
married in the church, kids, but christened in the church and so on. But it's easy to stray from the path or to not make it a priority.
Yeah,
Anyway, this whole thing has been a return to that.
yeah.
And so now I begin my day reading through some devotionals. And of course, some of them are better than others, but I
Hmm.
find that, I'm marking pages with post-its and making notations and so on. And the other day, I decided that, oh, I have far too much to do today. I'll do it later. I'm not doing it now.
Yeah.
And typical that technology was involved. It seemed to me that my mouse wasn't working. I changed the battery. That didn't help. I had a new mouse. And you know how they put the little USB thing in the base of the mouse?
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a heck of a time getting it out of there. It flew somewhere, which made me then have to look all over my desk. I thought I heard it, sort of tinkle. I reached for it. It fell to the floor. You think that I wasn't on my hands and knees, which I maybe should have been there in the first place to avoid all this, searching around on the floor to find this thing. And I'm thinking, it's such a simple, petty annoyance,
Yeah.
but I would almost bet my bottom dollar that had I put first things first,
Hmm.
that all the difficulties I was having to that point would have not occurred. I find, and Brenda's in the audience. Brenda's a fellow YouTuber in Alberta. We've met on many occasions, and she's sort of peace and calm personified. And I think I want that too. I want that serenity that comes with knowing that everything is well in hand. I'm
Hmm.
not in charge. I don't need to be in charge. I just have to do first things first,
Yeah.
which is set the tone for the day, stay in constant communication,
Mm.
whether that's verbally or in my head. um, and I can feel the differences already.
Yeah, it's
I-
amazing.
yeah, it truly is.
Yeah. And in this world, Jesus said, in this world you'll have tribulation. So just knowing that, it's like, oh yeah, there's that tribulation thing. But be of good cheer because you get me, you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing that came to mind is it's like the parable of the sower. The sower sows the word, but the cares of this world entering in means it doesn't get any root in it. And we'll always have the cares of this world distracting us. So you have to really be on guard for that because they're going to come, and you got to make it a priority. Like, God's my priority. Not always easy, but you have to.
Yeah.
That's the best direction to go.
And I just thought, having to drop to one's knees is kind of a pretty in your face metaphor, isn't it?
Yes.
You've got a sense of humor.
Yes, of course.
Oh dear. We are, oh my goodness, we're at the 2 hour mark. We better start winding down, even though this has been incredibly interesting and very satisfying to me. Okay, we know that you're an introvert. I'm not going to ask the purple question because I know that blue is your favorite color. So we'll dispense with that one. I do want to know though, do you choose a word of the year to focus on, to guide and direct your thoughts and behavior, perhaps?
I have done in the past. That I didn't this year because I don't know, it just kind of didn't occur to me. So I guess the answer is no, not really, because I usually forget it by the third week in January anyway.
Okay, that was easy. Oh, thanks, Teresa. Teresa has to leave early. Oh, she's going to visit her mother-in-law in the hospital. Um, and I guess maybe the question that we will wind up with is, are there, like, who would you consider to be a mentor or an influence in your life? And that could be as a woman, as an artist, as a YouTuber, like define it however you want.
Let me think. Well, my mom was probably a big one. And my both my parents, like my siblings and I, figure we kind of won the parent lottery because we had really good parents. And I'm actually working with an art business mentor right now, but I'm finding that I know as much about business as he does because I've been in business for so long. But it's kind of fun working with somebody who's at that level.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Other than that, I can't think of anybody really in particular.
Um, and this is just typical of how this goes. I said that was the last question, but of course I have two more.
Okay.
Um, what is the best part of getting older?
Knowing yourself well, I think. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but I think relaxing about being yourself is a really good thing.
And maybe stopping to um, try to be something that one isn't.
Yeah.
I think we all go through those phases, whether it starts in junior high where we want to fit into the
Yeah.
group,
Yeah.
and it can also be as a new bride, as a new mother, as an employee. We all want to
Yeah.
fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important that we do for survival as an organism. But I think also just honoring who you are and letting yourself off the hook for what you didn't achieve that you thought you would, and go, okay, well, this is good enough, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
happy. I'm going to be happy anyway.
And the last thought that popped into my mind when you were talking about working with this art, what did you call him? An advisor?
Art business coach,
Art
mentor.
business coach, mentor. Um, are you familiar with the concept of mastermind groups?
Oh yeah, very.
So when you say I know as much about it as he does, it sound I what I interpret that did that to mean is that um you have something to give, and sometimes we just need somebody to bounce things off of,
Yes.
people who have the same goals in mind. And I know I had that conversation recently with I interviewed Kit Bell, who is a BC artist as well.
Okay.
And or was it? No, it might not have been. Anyway, one of the recent guests, and I thought, why are more of us not starting and belonging to mastermind groups where we have a connection and a rapport with somebody, and we, meet regularly to uplift and encourage and bolster each other, um, especially when we have as much to give as we hope to get.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's, I don't know. I that
I think
because
I
that
think I think partly it might be because most of us artists are introverts. So when we say let's get together, we really mean I want to stay home and read a book.
but now with technology, it can be an hour-long
On
virtual meeting
Yeah,
where
exactly.
you're in your pajamas, don't even have to have your face on camera, excuse me, and being there for each other without, you know, the whole thing dragging
Yeah,
on.
yeah. It's very valuable, and I've always been very free with all my knowledge. It's like it was I spent a lot of years learning stuff, and I'm very happy to share.
Yes.
I don't need to be a closed book, and I don't need to be territorial about it or anything like that. If I
Yeah.
can help you, great. I want you to succeed too. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing what you know and for doing what you do with your channel. I think if people weren't aware of your channel before now, I think they certainly are. And I encourage people um, to visit your channel, subscribe, of course, check out the website and look at the artwork that's in the gallery there. And just as a final word, how often do you do your newsletter, and what kind of stuff can a person expect if they subscribe?
With my newsletter, I've always done it once a week. Sometimes it's once every second week now, just because I'm quite busy with other stuff. I keep it very light. I talk a little bit about what I'm doing and, try to keep it lighthearted and then lead into what the topic of the video is about. And then if I've got stuff like new art I want people to look at, I don't have prints set up on my site right now because I'm still working on where to find a really good supplier. But I have a store, so that is coming. But it's not onerous, and I don't email you 6 times a day because
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's once a week or every second week, and I just
Yeah.
say this is my go watch my video, and this is last week's video, and here's my new painting, and
So it's a little tie into the theme of the video,
yeah,
because sometimes, especially if you're listing points in the video, it might be nice to see that in print. You
yeah.
know what
I
I
don't
mean?
usually put yeah, I don't
Almost.
do I don't do that, but
Yeah.
I do sort of lead into,
Yeah.
this is a topic, and
Yeah.
it's only like this long. It's not big. I don't want it to be onerous for anybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Wendy. Can we expect are you still writing, I guess,
Not
is
not
another.
very much, just because I'm
Yeah.
spending more time making art.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I won't ever. So
Yeah.
yeah, this has been
Well,
a real pleasure.
It's been my pleasure as well. Thank you for everyone who was in the chat, and of course, anyone who will be watching the replay as well. Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Thank you.